Hi Quilty friends, welcome back. This is month 5. I can't believe it's month 5 already. The time is going quickly and we're going to make 2 blocks this month. And we're going to be using mostly purple and blue fabric, so some new colors, so that should be really fun. The 2 blocks we're going to make are called the Rosebud and the Arbor Window. First, let's do the Rosebud. Okay, if you look here, you'll see that I've already started to do some of the work. What you need to make are 8 half square triangles out of the purple and blue that will be squared up to 1.5 inches. And I'm going to show you in a minute. I've saved one to square up. The rest of the squares that you cut will all be cut on the diagonal. And I've pre-cut the purple ones on the diagonal, and I'm going to show you how to cut the white ones on the diagonal in case you can't do that. Okay? If you need a review on half square triangles, please refer to one of the previous videos about how to sew them together. Okay? We need to square this up to 1.5 inches. And remember, we want to find the 45-degree angle on our ruler. And we're going to put that 45-degree angle on the angle or the seam line. All right? We're going to square it up to 1.5 inches. So I'm going to make sure that I have extra, that I can cut a little bit away on these sides, and then I'll cut more away on the other 2 sides. Okay? I knew that didn't cut. There. Now we rotate it. And now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put that 45-degree angle on my seam line, but this time I'm going to put my 2 trimmed edges on the 1.5 marks. Okay, so see 1.5, and the angle is correct. And now I'm going to trim this side and the top. Okay, so now I have 8 half square triangles that have been squared up to 1.5 inches. All right, the second cut we need to make we need to cut all the rest of the squares that we've cut according to the directions into triangles. So now I'm going to cut on this diagonal, and I'm going to lay the edge of my ruler so that it lines up exactly with opposite corners. Okay. One more time. I'm going to lay the edge of my ruler on the opposite corners, creating a diagonal line. Okay, so now we have 8 half square triangles and a whole lot of just regular triangles. So we're going to take a look at the picture, and this is how we're going to line this up. We're going to sew these 2 together, and then we're going to sew this one along the edge. Only we're going to do it this way. Okay, so now I'm going to sew those 2 together. All right, be sure that you've got your machine set up for 1/4 inch piecing, and that you have set your stitch length at 1.8. Line your squares up. This is a short little seam. Okay, and we're going to press this seam open. Let's bring this a little closer. Okay, and now I'm going to sew this triangle to this. Now, you're thinking that doesn't fit. Well, actually it will fit, What you want to be sure is that you keep this a straight line, and you will end up with a tail at the bottom, but it'll work out, believe me. So we're going to go like this, and I'm going to sew these together now. Now we're going to press that open as well. Remember, press as you sew, and then press it the way you want it to be. Okay, and see that tail is just hanging out there, and that's perfectly all right. But we want this edge to be straight. Okay, now we're going to take a white triangle, and we're going to sew it here. And the same thing is true. See, we have a triangle hanging over, but we want to keep this outside edge straight. So I'm going to line up that outside edge, and I'm going to sew along here. If it's right, if we've got everything lined up, our needle should end up hitting right here where that V is forming. Make an effort to keep your seams the way you've pressed them. Don't let them get all messy. Okay, now we're going to press this. Okay, now we look. If we press this open, then we're pressing all these seams back on themselves. So I'm going to press it open just to get everything to lay flat, and then I'm going to press them toward the white. Only because it's really difficult to make these stay down. We'll get a flatter look if we go like this. See, everything's laying nice and flat. Okay, last step is we have to put one of these purple triangles on here. Now, at this point, we're sewing two bias edges together. This is a bias edge, this is a bias edge, and so is this. And remember that the bias means that it stretches a lot. So we're going to have to be very careful not to stretch anything. Okay, so even when we pressed here, we have to be careful. Okay, we don't want to do a lot of ironing. We want to do mostly pressing because we don't want those bias edges to get stretched out. Okay, so last step is we're going to do this. Flip them over and sew them together along that edge. And I'm going to sew from this side so that I make sure my seam allowances stay the way I've pressed them. Okay, look, everything fit very nicely. So now we've got one portion of this block. So I'm going to press this seam, and then I have to put the other three together. So let's press this seam, and again I'm going to press it open, but then I'm going to press it towards the purple because this is really thick here. And to press it back on itself and expect it to stay there is not going to work. So I'm going to make sure everything's flat, and now I'm going to press it towards the purple. Again, not a lot of ironing, mostly pressing, because remember this is a bias edge and I don't want it to stretch. Okay, so I have that part done. So I'll see you back after I sew these together and show you how to sew the block together finally. Okay, welcome back. We're going to finish up our Rosebud block. I have completed all the 4 sections, and now I've sewn these 2 together and these 2 together, and I've pressed them opposite. So this seam's going this way and this seam is going this way. So now when I put them together, that center seam will nest. And so we'll sew that together. Okay, and we have a really, really nice looking pinwheel. I mean, it's not called a pinwheel, it's called a rosebud, but that's okay. It looks like a pinwheel to me. So now take that final seam, press it open, and you've got 1 block for month 5 done. And we will be back with the arbor window, which is actually a very simple block. I think everybody will really enjoy it. So come back after you have your rosebud done. Come back and see how to do arbor window. Okay?